Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Mark Prater podcast, where our aim is to connect our global family of Sovereign Grace churches with our executive director. You know, Mark, when I was growing up, and some people checking out the podcast probably had this experience too of playing the game, maybe watching the TV show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Well, we're playing, Where in the World is Mark Prater?
Yeah,
Because you're on the move
nice.
and you are not at
Yeah,
home. You're in a hotel room. Where are you?
yeah. Obviously, I am. I am in Bozeman, Montana. It's a beautiful day here in Bozeman. We're recording this on a Saturday, and this podcast will drop in the inbox on a Monday. Let me tell you why I'm here. I was actually out on the West Coast already this week in LA for a leadership team retreat, and I was asked by Greg Dernberger, the regional leader in this area, if somebody from the leadership team could come this Sunday and install Ron Boomsma as the senior
Yeah,
pastor and elder of the church here in Bozeman, Emmaus Road Church. Greg is on sabbatical, and he felt like just kind of what the churches walked through. They were without a pastor for a couple of years. It would be good just to have somebody come from the leadership team just to encourage Ron and Tammy, but also the church as well. And I thought, well, I'm already on the West Coast. I can pop up here, and so I made that call, and so that's why I'm here in Bozeman, which maybe some of our pastors listening didn't know that Ron Boomsma is in Bozeman. He is the new senior
right.
pastor of Emmaus Road Church in Bozeman. That the church has been a part of that process, so I'm not announcing anything that's not to be kept confidential. The church does know, and tomorrow is going to be a great day for them. You might
Right.
remember Joel Carlson led that church, and then went to serve another church that was outside of Sovereign Grace and transitioned, therefore, out of Sovereign Grace. They were without a pastor for a couple of years. And Ron and Tammy heard about it and prayed and felt like the Lord was
Mm.
leading them here from Pasadena. You might go, what's happening in Pasadena? Well, Tim Owens, who graduated from the Pastor's College just a few years ago and has
Right.
been there on staff in Pasadena, has stepped into Ron's role. So
Mm.
two transitions have happened. Obviously, one in Pasadena from older to younger in that regard, and then in this case from region to region, from the West region to the Midwest Northwest region. And I wanted to mention it because it not only explains where I'm at and why I'm in this hotel room. I just think it illustrates how we want to continue to develop our partnership among Sovereign Grace churches,
Yes.
that as transitions occur in the future, we've got to help one another and
Yes.
share people and pastors with one another so that we can do effective transitions that serve our local churches and mostly give God glory. We want to do God glorifying conversations. So I'm very grateful for the
Hmm.
sacrifice the Pasadena church is making, the sacrifice the West region is making, the sacrifice that Ron and Tammy personally are making to move here to Bozeman and to begin to pastor this church. And the church here is very excited about Ron, and I just can't wait to do this tomorrow. It's going to be quite an honor.
That is deeply encouraging. I mean, it is an compelling example that Ron is setting for us. You know, he could very well have just lived out his days in pastoral ministry in beautiful California, but to not necessarily early in life, but a little later in life, to pick up and move to Montana or to serve that church. That is a sweet sacrifice, I'm sure, that pleases the Savior, and it's not the only one.
No,
There are all kinds of examples of this kind of sacrificial love for the local church, whether you have um, Scott Crook coming from Shaska to serve
right?
at Edge Church as he plants in Italy. And here now we have Ron coming over, or Ken Mellinger coming, leaving
Yep.
Living Hope, going down to Texas with John Payne. It is the older pastors in Sovereign Grace, once again, are setting an example for us that I'm deeply grateful for. And I'm
Amen.
sure tomorrow is going to be a happy Sunday in Bozeman,
Yes.
Montana. But you are in Bozeman because you come by way of California.
Right.
You were in California last week at the latest leadership team retreat. Tell us about what happened there.
We had a great retreat. It wasn't all the leadership team. It was myself and Jeff Purswell and John Payne, Jared Mellinger, and Dave Taylor flew over from Sydney. God bless him. Which is one of the reasons
Yeah.
we do it in Southern California. It's just one leg of a flight for him, and we just had a wonderful retreat. God just blessed it. It was a retreat I've been praying for quite a bit, and I'm just going to tell you some of the highlights. I don't have time to go through all of them, or this podcast would be too long. We had a full important. I would say one of the most important agendas we've had as a leadership team. So here's just sort of topics that we talked about. First, church planting. The church planning group, and Joel Shorey, our new director of church planning, just had a retreat last month, and so John gave us an update on that. It's just so encouraging to see what work our church planning group is doing, and now the leadership that Joel is bringing not only to them but to our church planning efforts. And that's just very timely, because we have 6 to 7, I think, church plants planned here in the States over the next 2 years, and then another 10 outside the States over the next 2 to 3 years. So in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to plant somewhere between 16 and 17 churches if things go as planned. Again, not wanting to be presumptuous upon the sovereignty of God. And part of the reason we wanted to talk about it at the retreat, are we prepared for that? And that would include financial preparation. Do we have enough resources to fund the church plants we want to fund, both here in the States and globally? And it gives me a chance to mention the Council of Elders delegates just a couple of weeks ago received some just information about our meeting in November. And one of those was a new business motion from the leadership team. And if you've read it, in the rationale, we're proposing that the Council of Elders approve making a division between the current church planning fund that the Council of Elders established several years ago and divided into a U.S. fund and a global fund, because it helps us to use our money more strategically. It helps us to track how we're using it more effectively. And it helps us on the leadership team in particular, and those in different parts of the world, including the States, to request funds, and they know how much they've got to work with. So just a number of reasons. We'll talk about that at the Council of Elders, and potentially that will be approved by the Council of Elders. We'll see. We also talked through our church adoption vetting process. We've just looked back and thought, there's some things we can learn as we go to adopt churches. Seems like there's some things that we can grow in. And so John and Dave brought a whole proposal on how to improve that. I was very excited about what they're proposing. So we're going to work through that just a little bit more. It may require some BCO amendments in the future. My guess is it probably will, but looking to just make that process a little bit better so that we're just being wise in the church adoption process. We also planned, initially anyway, the February leadership team regional leader retreat. That's the one retreat we do as a leadership team everywhere, where we have the regional leaders join us. That's a very strategic time. And so we've got to do a lot of preparation beforehand. And I really like the plan that we've got in place. And you'll hear more about that, obviously, on future podcasts. We did a discussion about the Relay Conference in 2025, just doing some additional planning, including a pre-conference meeting for young men aspiring to pastoral ministry. That most likely will involve Jeff, and I can't wait for Jeff to just be exposed to them, to those those young men aspiring to ministry. There's a number of new initiatives that many of the leadership team guys have been working on that we discussed. I don't have time to discuss them now, but most of those will be talked about at the Council of Elders meeting. So if you're not a delegate and you want to hear about them, come as an observer. We would love to have you at that meeting. You'll hear about those then. Jared gave us a publishing update, really a publishing plan over the next year. It's really exciting to see what is about to be released and what's in the works that will be released over the next year. In the categories of the journal, in fact, next month, October, the next edition of the journal with the theme Books That Have Shaped Us. I can't wait to read that. That'll be released. And then the category of theopastoral resources, we're just going to use the old name, the Perspective series. Guys have been around some time. Those are written at a little more theological level. And we're about ready to release that first one, Who Governs the Church? You'll hear more about that. And then books we're just self-publishing. In fact, there's a new one up that Jeff has written. It's a chapter that was in a book, The Honored Wayne Grudem. We now have permission to use that. And so that is the republishing of that chapter. That's new on our website. But a number of other things, I think 10 to 12 other projects that are in the process of being published right now. So you'll hear more about that. And then we plan the 2024 Pastors Conference, and we're planning on that, and the 2025 Pastors and Leaders Conference, So we hope to announce at the 2024 Pastors Conference that the 2025 conference will be a pastors and leaders conference where churches can bring leaders, members of their churches to this conference. And we're tailoring it that way, a number of different breakout sessions that will serve those who serve members who serve our churches. Things like small group leadership and things like parenting and marriage. And there's just a whole list of those. So we did some planning for that too, because we hope to announce it with specific dates at the end of the 2024 conference, because people will need to take time off work in 2025. It's good for them to know ahead of time, and then open registration as soon as possible. So those are just some of the things that we talked about this past week in Southern California.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the update. Thank you for sharing about the hard work you guys were getting done at the retreat. At least it was in beautiful California.
Yeah, right.
If you're gonna work hard, that's a great place to do it.
It is.
And so thank you, Mark. Thank you for all the guys in the leadership team for your thoughtful and wise leadership and investment in us. And thank you for checking out the podcast. And so we'll see you here next week, Lord willing. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. If you have questions or comments, Mark would love to hear from you. For more videos like this, hit subscribe on YouTube or by email at markkprater.com.